took the most popular women's magazines, Cosmo, Glamour, Vogue, Elle, and made them conservative. Instead of giving women tips for feeling confident in their own skin, you could encourage them to dress to appeal to men. Instead of advice for getting ahead in their careers, you could position being a stay-at-home mom and housewife as the ultimate dream. Instead of feminism, you could push femininity. That's Evie, a traditional women's magazine with even more traditional values. But hidden beneath the surface of glossy photos and high-profile interviews, there's something sinister lurking. Regressive gender roles, distrust in science and medicine, compulsory Christianity, and thinly veiled misogyny. Evie is selling an alt-right ideology to unsuspecting young women, all packaged as the future of femininity. This is Evie Exposed.
Hey everyone, I'm Ileana. This is the first video in my series, Evie Exposed, a deep dive into Evie magazine, the conservative Cosmo. In this series, I'm going to talk about the insidious nature of this magazine, from the unhealthy marriage ideas it pushes on young women, to the outdated diet and disordered eating culture it promotes, to the victim blaming and slut shaming it does. If you want to see my breakdowns on all of these topics, please subscribe to my channel. In this first episode, I'm going to give you the rundown on what Evie magazine is, the messages they share, the power couple and their funders behind the magazine, and the political agenda they're pushing. Let's get into it. If you haven't heard of Evie, it's an alt-right women's publication dedicated to celebrating femininity. It was founded in 2019 by Brittany and Gabriel Hugo Boom, and it peddles tons of right-wing propaganda and conspiracy theories. The website has a lot of articles about the fertility crisis, the war on motherhood, anti-vax conspiracies, thinness, and other aesthetic ideals that have always been innately tied to the rise of authoritarianism, COVID-19 disinformation, and anti-trans propaganda, among so much other problematic content. Evie doesn't only publish far-right content, though. In order to scoop up mainstream readers and convert them to tradwife-supporting anti-feminists, they need to provide approachable entryways into their world. They have lots of articles that you'd see in other magazines and on other websites, like 15 bridal shower gifts that aren't another candle. Which grandma hobby are you? The prettiest spring wedding guest dresses under $150. But peppered among the innocuous women's magazine fluff is the more insidious content. Articles like, study of 1.7 million children finds heart inflammation only in vaccinated group. The war on motherhood. 13 reasons why you should quit hormonal birth control. Here's all the Pizzagate evidence they tried to erase from the internet. Is it women's fault men don't approach anymore? The Southern Poverty Law Center says new media outlets aimed at women have also emerged to support the male supremacist politics of the hard right. The preeminent publication among these ventures is Evie. On their website, Evie's About page says, "We know that no matter how hard the forces that shape society advocate otherwise, women and men are inherently different. And we believe that the only way forward is to acknowledge and celebrate those differences by embracing our nature, despite the world telling us we should hate the realities of our biology and what we are." Evie offers readers textbook patriarchy dressed up as girly pop women's content. Sarah Peterson, author of the book Momfluenced, wrote, "It's a perfectly pretty gateway drug to ideologies which exist to protect the privileged and further disenfranchise the marginalized." And that's exactly what Evie is doing. They are uplifting thin, wealthy, white women while disenfranchising anyone who doesn't fit that picture-perfect mold. According to founder and editor-in-chief Brittany Hugo Boom, though, Evie is classier than Cosmo, sexier than Refinery 29, and smarter than Bustle. Here's how they describe Evie on the website. Evie was founded with one goal in mind. Women deserve better from women's media. The editors of the famed publications have been responsible for harmful advice that has resulted in a generation of women experiencing more depression than any other in modern history. Yeah, that's what's responsible for the depression. It's the women's magazines. It's obviously not the climate crisis or late stage capitalism or the 24-hour news cycle or an incredibly incompetent government that somehow still manages to push women down. Women's depression couldn't possibly be from like the structural issues we face. No. It's because of the bad advice that we got from women's magazines. Evie, named in honor of the Bible's Eve, pushes the right-wing ideal of biblical femininity. In talking about the name of the magazine, Brittany said, "Eve screwed the world, and this is a new Eve who will save the world. Now, we could get into the fact that Christianity, which deeply upholds the patriarchy, somehow manages to find a way to blame the first woman for the downfall of society, but that's not what this video is about. Maybe we'll get into that in a later one. So what's their agenda with Evie magazine? One of the main objectives is to push the right-wing anti-birth control narrative. I talked about the anti-birth control movement in an earlier video. I'll link that for you guys here. But Evie pushes against birth control in two primary ways, with anti-birth control articles all over their website and their print issues, and through their cycle-based fitness and wellness app, 28. The app, which was funded in part by conservative venture capitalist and Epstein associate Peter Thiel, is an anti-birth control tool functioning under the guise of wellness with an ulterior motive of contributing to the pronatalist movement. Why are they pushing the message? One, to fearmonger about the fertility crisis and ongoing moral panic, and two, to profit off of young women. According to a New York Times profile, Brittany and Gabriel grew interested in women's fertility because they knew a lot of friends who were having trouble getting pregnant. So they wanted to develop a product that would empower women to understand their bodies. That's where they came up with the idea for the app 28. Of course, this language of empowering women is co-opting feminist phrasing to push anti-feminist messaging. And it's very intentional. Both the app and the magazine are pushing people to ditch the pill, which both promotes pronatalism and pads their pockets because they also sell a birth control detox supplement through their app. In case their stance on abortion wasn't obvious, they are staunchly anti-choice. In an interview with the New York Times, Brittany said Evie is pro-life, obviously. But according to the article, she rolled her eyes and shook her head when asked if she believed all birth control should be banned. She said, if you don't want to be a mom, don't be a mom. No one should force you to be one. It's hard work. It's harder than being a girl boss. She says no one should force you to be a mom, but ignores the fact that the government she supports is trying to do exactly that by banning abortion, restricting contraceptive access, tracking women's menstrual cycles via national database, and limiting women's upward mobility. And yes, I can confidently say that's the government she supports because she and her husband outwardly voted for Trump. Although she admits she forgot to register to vote in New York, so she didn't vote in the New York City mayoral election. So much for claiming your political power, huh, Brittany? When Brittany says no one should force you to be a mom, she's admitting that she's pro-life in the same way as the rest of the modern GOP, in that she's only anti-choice. I have a video about the entire pro-life lie that I'll link for you guys as well. The thing is, it's easier to blame feminism for all the woes of working women than to recognize the significant lack of structural support. Accessible prenatal and postpartum care, affordable childcare, paid parental leave, accessible healthcare, schools where children are safe from gun violence. It's not feminism that has forced families to need two incomes to survive. It's late-stage capitalism and a government that doesn't enforce living wages. Brittany Hugo Boom is the classic Republican hypocrite. She tells women to stay at home and submit to their feminine nature. She says there's nothing more fulfilling than becoming a mother and a homemaker, telling women that feminism is what forced them into the workforce. She says women's true desire is to embrace the soft life. Despite all of this rhetoric, though, Brittany is a working mom, an owner of multiple businesses, the exact girl boss she laments is ruining society. If you ignored the message that she's pushing and just looked at the lifestyle she lives, you could imagine her on the cover of another magazine, celebrating a working mom who built a business from the ground up while raising a young family. Of course, she doesn't see the hypocrisy in her lifestyle. Instead, she sees herself as the exception, not the norm. Even though she has spent years building Evie, 28, and even launching the raw milkmaid dress that went super viral on TikTok, she says women aren't cut out for careers like this. She told the New York Times, I think when most women try to do that, they fail. Then they feel upset about it, when it's not really in their nature. And this is the entire juxtaposition of Evie magazine. They're pushing the message that freedom can be found in embracing your femininity. And they claim that feminism has forced women to work. They want women to be able to choose to stay home, which is the entire premise of feminism, getting to choose how you want to live your life. Evie magazine, like so many conservative influencers, is pushing this ideal of femininity and a soft life that they themselves don't even partake in. We see it with people like Isabel Brown, Erica Kirk, Hannah Nealman of Ballerina Farm, Brittany Hugo Boom. All of these women are trying to tell other women, it's okay if you want to stay home and not work. Meanwhile, they have these high-powered jobs and social media careers that sustain their families. They have the support of nannies and family members and childcare, but they push this soft life, trad wife, homemaker dream on the consumers of their content. It is pushing the same patriarchal, anti-feminist content that men are pushing on podcasts and YouTube channels in the manosphere, but they're dressing it up in a pretty pink bow. Okay, I wanted to keep this brief and not get too into the weeds on all of the problems with Evie Magazine. I just wanted to kind of give you a brief rundown on what Evie Magazine is and what you can expect from this series. If you're new here, I'm Ileana. I talk about the intersection of politics and parenting. I'd love to have you follow me and subscribe. I'm on every social media platform as @IleanaJustine, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.